All right, so we'll get going with this Silk Road history final essay. Not really an essay, more of a presentation for your class professor and kind of the overview of the important aspects of the Silk Road history given each time period. So, kind of before 300 BC, we kind of see the start of the Silk Road, its origins. Really kind of started with the steppe and the Soan people. The steppe, these high raised lands, and these people who were in them kind of came down into different parts of China to raid and steal what they needed for their land because they couldn't really, they were definitely hunter gatherers and they couldn't really do a lot of planting, so they kind of took their took what they needed from other people. This, of course, also opens up the trans cultural and ecological exchange, which kind of goes throughout the entire life of the Silk Road. Transcultural is, kind of as its name states, the cultural aspect of trading along the Silk Road. It's what causes so much, religion and pottery and customs to spread throughout the Silk Road. That some of which we even see still has an effect on today. And then the trans-ecological aspect is, of course, what it says. The ecological part's what was actually being traded. It's called Silk Road, but silk was just one of hundreds of things traded. Spices and wood and gold and pottery and just tons of things that were traded. So the trans-ecological exchange kind of goes into what was being traded, what the cultural aspect is, the cultural stuff that was being traded and shared along the Silk Road. I put the definition of the Silk Road from the lecture. A system of commercial routes on both land and sea that led various peoples from the Mediterranean. We also see the eventual move to the sea with the monsoon winds become a huge aspect of the trading. That was kind of what was going on in this early part of the Silk Road. The next part, there was kind of a lot that went on during this next time period of 300 BCE to 600 CE. This is kind of where we deal a lot with the Chinese dynasties, specifically the Han, and their conflict with the tribal people. The Han Empire kind of built the Great Wall. Well, started it at least, and the Han Empire was also, or it was the Qin, had one of their princesses marry one of the tribal members in order to kind of have an alliance with these Huns for the Great Wall. This was also kind of considered the golden age of the Silk Road. This is when trading was kind of at its peak. There was a large spread of, religion. This kind of goes into Buddhism. Buddhism was still the dominant religion there today, but this is where it really kind of takes hold from India, from the Kushan Empire. It really kind of sees the influence of Buddha, and Buddha is allowed to be practiced along the Silk Road because of all the palaces and spots for prayer that people can worship. These Buddha monks and these palaces, even though Buddha was actually alive way before the Silk Roads, about 600-700 years beforehand, he still played a big role in this Buddhist religion in China. And then Rome and Alexander the Great. Alexander obviously was a king. He ruled in Rome. He died at a young age, but he kind of set up these city-states and these trading posts in the western part of the trade routes. He kind of got Rome and that eastern part of Europe involved in the trade. And kind of the main aspect, though, in this time period was definitely the spread of Buddhism and his effect that we still see today in China, with it kind of being the dominant religion. And going right into 600 and 1200 CE, this is where we kind of see Tang purple and sumptuary laws kind of, I guess you could say, take hold from the Tang Empire. Sumptuary laws kind of basically told you what you can and can't wear. Specifically Tang purple. Tang purple was considered, very religious and very wealthy, or not religious, very wealthy and very, I guess you could say, ruling class. So you could actually get in trouble for wearing Tang purple. And so the Tang Empire really kind of brought forth these laws, basically telling people what they can say, what they can wear, who they are. And then, of course, we see some of the Turkish influence along the Silk Road. The Persians started kind of making their own silk, so did the Muslims. However, the Muslims created theirs with no animals or gods, or any way depicting God on them. I guess they thought that was disrespectful, but it was definitely forbidden. But they also kind of started to make their own types of silk. One was with the Virgin Mary on it. And then you got the Battle of the Talas River. This was between the Tang and the Abysm. So what happens is a Chinese general kind of attacks a central city in China, and he asks for help from the Muslim army, and then the central city in China asks for help from the Tang Empire, and they fight. And long story short, the Muslim army wins and takes a lot of these Chinese prisoners back to Baghdad, which was their capital. This was very important because it's kind of the spread of technology, because the Muslims and these Turks got a hold of these Chinese, sculptors and I guess not scientists, but idealists. They were able to spread kind of their ideas, the Chinese ideas, from Baghdad, kind of their headquarters and their capital. So that kind of played a big role in the expansion of technology to the Middle East. And then kind of the last part of the Silk Road, kind of I guess you could say the decline to the end of the Silk Road, is 1200 to 1400 CE. This was by far my favorite part of the class, learning about the Mongols and Genghis Khan and how dominant of a force they were. So the Mongols were kind of these northern tribes north of Asia, and they conquered just about all of Asia. Genghis Khan did. And even after he died, he had his sons and grandsons kind of take over his role. Kublai Khan was kind of a main one, his grandson, but he kind of started it. Like I said, he took over much of Asia. He did a lot of the conquering and the ruling, and he did this through he used Muslims as merchants and traders a lot, and he did this. He allowed that while he kind of conquered, like I said, Central Asia. I mean, they definitely conquered by terror and use of force, but again, they kind of ruled with a very peaceful and open mind. They're very freedom of religion. I mean, when they would conquer a place, they would allow people to stay in charge, just bending the knee to the Mongols whenever they asked. And then also kind of goes into Nahaji, which is the kind of the wealth of the Mongols. They obviously continued to trading. They kind of took over the Silk Road. They traded. They really loved silk and Persian silk. And then the last part, the Sahid, he worked for Mongols and helped them conquer the Song dynasty. And just this last aspect, I guess, really just kind of highlights the Mongols and their rule. And that's about it for the Silk Road. Kind of a brief overview, because we only had 5 to 8 minutes. I think I've gone over that. That's kind of just a brief overview of the Silk Road and the important aspects of the time period of it. So hope you enjoyed.